Hello, I'm State Rep Glenn Gruenhagen. This is an update on voter integrity. Rigged. How the media, big tech, and the Democrats seized the election. The author is MOLLIE HEMINGWAY. She is the senior editor of The Federalist, also a Fox News contributor. She's been featured and profiled in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, the Los Angeles Times, and numerous other major newspapers. In here, she documents the devastating account and exposes the fraud and cynicism behind the Democrats' historic power grab in the 2020 election, which has destroyed the faith of millions of Americans in the press and our political institutions. It is also a reminder to weary patriots that truth combined with courage is the weapon America's corrupt elites fear the most. In her book, she documents how Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook gave over $400 million to primarily liberal organizations, many of which filed lawsuits across our nation in different states in order to change our election laws. It especially was effective in swing states of Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. They changed our election laws, even though constitutionally only state legislatures are authorized to change those laws. Here in Minnesota in 2020, Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon approached the legislature to change our election laws, which were soundly rejected by the Minnesota legislature. By the way, Steve Simon was formerly a Democratic state representative before he became Secretary of State. Then, after session was over, in the summer of 2020, liberal organizations sued the state of Minnesota to change our election laws, many of which were the changes that Secretary of State Simon had submitted to the legislature. Attorney General Ellison and Secretary Steve Simon were supposed to defend our election laws, but what happened, they actually agreed with liberal organizations and changed Minnesota's election laws unconstitutionally. This was done in front of a liberal judge who was a former staff member of Senator Amy Klobuchar. So all three Democrats, the judge, the liberal organizations, and the so-called defenders of our election laws were all part of the Democratic Party. Also in Minnesota, our Minnesota State Party had a subcommittee that was working since January 2021 on changes to bring election integrity to our Minnesota voting system here. Here are their final recommendations. We should eliminate same-day and automatic voter registration, enact voter ID laws. By the way, I'm chief author of the voter ID law in the House. I have over 20 co-authors on my bill. I could not get one Democrat to sign on to the bill. Only use voting systems that produce a paper record of a voter's selections that is both reviewable and auditable. The next recommendation, prohibit ballot harvesting, which we know went on in Minnesota. Enact standards for rejecting and accepting absentee ballots. Enact reforms to increase transparency and to access to the voting process, public records, and voting information. Enhance cyber security requirements for voting systems, such as electronic voting machines, including that they have no wireless network or internet connectivity. So these were the recommendations of the Minnesota Subcommittee on GOP. Remember one other thing. In 2016, when President Trump was elected, the many leading Democrats claimed that it was a fraudulent election and that electronic voting machines could be easily hacked. They could change the vote, and that President Trump was elected fraudulently, along with claiming he was a Russian agent, the Russian hoax, and so many other things over the 4 years, and yet our liberal media said very little in terms of condemning the Democrats on these issues. Finally, I attended a symposium in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and while there they had voting machines, and they challenged us as legislators to be able to hack into those voting machines. It only took 4 minutes at the symposium to hack into those machines. So not only did the Democrats claim that voting machines get hacked, we've actually seen how it works in a relatively short period of time when we were at the symposium. In conclusion, I urge you to order this book if you have any doubts that there was fraudulent and unconstitutional changes in this last election. She has done an excellent job documenting it, and we need to understand that whether we're Democrat, Republican, or Independent, we need voter integrity. And that's what I stand for, that's what I'll be working for, and I urge you to support those efforts down at the state legislature in the upcoming 2022 session. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless Minnesota.